Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Russ Thomas, and I'm the CEO of the Prostate Forum of Orange County. It is our pleasure tonight to bring to you one of the highly regarded speakers that we provide for your information pleasure the fourth Thursday of every month.
Thank you, Russ, for this beautiful introduction that I don't deserve. Thank you for the group for being here. Thank you for Boston Scientific for sponsoring this, and thank you for having me here in this beautiful venue. This has to be the most beautiful venue I've ever given a talk at, so thank you very much for this. So I do work at UC Irvine. We have clinics in Orange, and we have clinics in Tustin, and soon we will be having a clinic in Newport Beach, where I head the men's health division. So what is men's health? Men's health comprises of erectile dysfunction, issues with ejaculation, with male infertility, as well as incontinence, enlarged prostate, and low testosterone. Now for this talk, I'm going to be talking about erectile dysfunction and incontinence. I'm mostly focusing on these issues after prostate cancer treatment. But at the end of the session, if we have time, I'm happy to talk a bit about testosterone replacements and pitfalls, since there seems to be a little bit of an interest there. So to start off, we're going to start with erectile dysfunction. At the end of this session, I'll have a patient advocate who has an inflatable penile prosthesis come up on stage as well, and we'll both be able to answer some questions. And then we'll go ahead and talk about incontinence, and we'll do the same afterwards. So, erectile dysfunction. So what is it? It is the persistent inability to achieve or maintain an erection firm enough to have sexual intercourse. 1 in 5 Americans over the age of 20 experience ED in their lifetime. Actually, if you look at statistics, you see that 1 in 3 men have erectile dysfunction over the age of 40. But of men who have erectile dysfunction, actually 1 in 4 are under the age of 35. So it really affects men of all age groups. And more than half of the men over 40 here in this data have some degree of ED, and it affects approximately 39 million people in the United States. So as you can see, it's a very prevalent condition. So looking at this, let me see if this works here. So when aroused, these two spaces are called the corpora cavernosa. So these are the cavities . I think we're out of battery in this. So I'll just stand next to the screen as well. So these two cavities here are the cavities that are filled with blood when you get an erection. This cavity, this at the bottom, is the urethra, which carries the urine from the bladder to the outside. When a man gets an erection, so in the flaccid state, you can see that these two cavities are pretty small and not distended. When a man gets an erection, these two cavities are going to get significantly more distended, and as they get filled up with blood, the penis is going to get erect. The veins that carry the blood back from the penis to the general circulation are located on the outside of the penis. So as these cavities get really swollen, the blood is trapped and cannot go out of the penis until a man ejaculates, at which point these can then detumesce or get smaller, and the penis goes back to this flaccid phase. I'll just wait for the batteries so we can, unless I can actually maybe do it from the computer.
Yeah, it can be done from the computer. I'll have your batteries in here.
No worries. So, when we look at the causes and the comorbidities associated with ED, the most common causes for ED are, as you can see here, vascular disease, diabetes, and medication. Other causes include neurological causes, endocrinological causes. When we say neurological causes, it includes men who have had a stroke, men who have had brain tumors, etc. When we talk about endocrine problems, it's most commonly men who have low testosterone, and we'll discuss this afterwards. So if you have low testosterone, you're more likely to have erectile dysfunction and ejaculatory dysfunction. So other causes that are more important based on this discussion today are prostate cancer treatment, diabetes, and heart disease. So these are the three most prevalent causes that we see in clinical practice. When we say prostate cancer treatment, we don't only mean prostate cancer surgery, but we also mean radiation therapy for the prostate. So why is ED important? Because when you treat cancer in a man with prostate cancer, you've cured the cancer is out, but sometimes the quality of life is affected. And until recently, people didn't put that much attention into quality of life. Quality of life is very important. It's one thing to survive a cancer, but it's another thing to have another 40 years of your life with poor quality of life. So my goal, I don't treat cancer. I don't resect the cancer. My partners in my department do this. I take care of patients afterwards just to make sure that they have adequate quality of life. And quality of life affects many components of life. I'm not going to go through this entire slide, but includes mental health, physical ability, emotional health, but also a couple, as we discussed by Ross earlier. Prostate cancer is not only a patient's problem, it's a couple's problem. So, you can see here on this slide, this is the bladder, and this is the urethra. The prostate is a walnut-shaped organ that is located between the bladder and the urethra. These are the nerves that go from the body down to the penis and allow for an erection. When a prostatectomy is performed, the surgeon removes the prostate from here, whether this is done open, laparoscopically, or more commonly now, robotically. Once the prostate is taken out, as you can see here, those extensions, those nerves are often injured. Even when the prostate resection is done with a nerve-sparing approach, there is still a chance of having worsening erectile function after surgery. And depending on the extent of the disease, the damage to the nerves can be more extensive or less extensive and needs to be treated in different ways depending on the amount of surgery that was performed. So this is just a graph to show that overall erectile dysfunction affects 25 to 75% of men after prostate cancer treatment, and that it is as a result of robotic prostatectomy, 10 to 46% of men 1 year after surgery have erectile dysfunction. And sexual dysfunction can occur in up to 50% of men after radiation therapy. The only difference is, once you get radiated, you don't immediately lose your erections. Your erections maintain, and over 3 years, your erections are going to slightly get worse and worse. And this is because the radiation affects a different component of the body than does the prostatectomy. When you got your prostate taken out, your erections are immediately worsened afterwards, and they tend to recover over time, depending again on the extent of surgery and the amount of cancer that was there. And obviously on the erections that were present prior to the surgery. So what are the restoration treatments or the ways we can recover erections after prostate cancer surgery? So, who can treat? You've got your primary care physician or your family physician, and they're a great resource. They can prescribe you the PDE5 inhibitors or the oral medications that we all know about, we all see. They can prescribe things just as a vacuum erection device, and I'll show you these. Then you've got your urologist. Your urologist also can prescribe your oral medications. They can prescribe a vacuum device. They can also prescribe injections. But in certain instances, all of this is not enough. And at this point, you need a penile implant, or an inflatable penile prosthesis, or a malleable penile prosthesis. We'll discuss these. And if you want to get those, the best thing to do is to go see a prostatic urologist. I myself am a prostatic urologist, which means I was trained for an additional 2 years in learning how to put prostatic implants and what the complications of prostatic implants are and how to treat these implants. So whenever you want to get any treatment, go see a specialist. You wouldn't come to see me to get your prostate taken out at the same rate. You wouldn't go see someone who takes prostate out if you have a problem with erections afterwards. So the treatment options, as you can see here, you've got the oral medications, injections, penile implants, vacuum erection device, and the urethral suppositories. And I'll touch upon each one of them briefly. So the oral medications, we all heard the advertisements: Viagra, Cialis, Levitra, Stendra. There's about at least 4 other Korean PDE5 medications that are available outside of the market. There's old drugs that are available. They all work. And they work in the majority of patients. However, in certain instances, after prostate surgery, the veins are damaged, or the return system from the penis to the body is damaged. When this happens, the chances of these medications working is incredibly low. So not everybody will have the PDE5s or oral medications work in them. How do these medications work? They work by increasing the flow of blood into the penis. They work very well. They're usually affordable depending on how your prescription is written out, whether your insurance covers for it. And they give you an erection that lasts enough for penetration. There are different drugs with different properties. However, they have side effects that can cause headache, muscle pain, flushing of the face, and they're contraindicated in men who are taking nitrate pills under their tongue for chest pain if they have coronary artery disease. And again, as you can see here, men with diabetes are at least 2 times more likely not to respond, and this is because also of venous leakage issue that we were discussing. So the most common side effects, again, headaches, facial flushing, stuffy nose, upset stomach, besides the other issues. And again, here it's important to always talk to your doctor before you start one of these medications because of all the cardiovascular or heart side effects that may happen. The vacuum erection devices existed since the 1980s. I don't know if any of you has watched movies on TV, but they often make jokes about it. They're called the Swedish bump. So it is basically a pump that you place over the penis. There is a button that sucks the blood into the penis. Once the blood is sucked into the penis and the penis is enlarged, a little, I don't know if you can see it here, a little band is placed at the base of the penis. It is a good device. It is cheap. You buy it one time and it lasts you for life. The way it works is once your erection is there, you put that band and it holds the blood in the penis. However, the bad things about it is the penis doesn't feel like a normal erection. It doesn't feel warm, it doesn't feel hard, it feels like someone filled the penis with fluid. The other problem is the glands, the top part of the penis does not get swollen. And partners often complain that the erection does not feel like a normal erection. Finally, the band at the base of the penis is uncomfortable and can cause a little bit of scarring in patients, and a lot of patients don't like it. It does work in certain patients, but again, if you have significant venous leakage, which we were talking about earlier, this is not a good option for you. Again, here you can see the side effects that we're discussing. The urethral suppository is also called Muse. This works by putting this little dispenser through the tip of the penis into your urethra. The medication will then leak from the urethra into those two spaces that we showed earlier, the corpora of the penis, and give you an erection. It works pretty well, but usually the side effect profile is pretty high. Patients complain of a lot of irritation in their penis and burning when they pee. And a lot of patients can have low blood pressure immediately after taking the suppository. So in general, most patients don't like it, also needs to be refrigerated, and it's quite expensive, and often the insurance companies will not cover for the cost. Intracavernosus injection therapy is a very commonly used technique in patients after prostate surgery. As you can see here, this is a needle. Again, going back, these are the two spaces, the corpora cavernosa, they get filled with blood. This is the urethra. The artery and the nerves of the penis are at the top. You never want to inject at 12 and you never want to inject at 6. You inject the medication at 3 and 9 o'clock. What this does is immediately causes the penis to swell up with blood and get rigid. They work really well and they work within 10 to 15 minutes. They come in different concentrations and different formulations. And you can speak to your urologist, you can come and see me and I'll discuss with you how these work. The main side effect with these, and that causes a high discontinuation rate amongst patients, is that a lot of patients, one, don't like needles. Two, you have to titrate the dose, means you have to find the right dose. If you take too little, it doesn't work. If you take a little bit too much, you can get an erection that lasts more than 3 to 4 hours, and then you end up in the emergency room. So it's just a little bit of an issue. The other thing is it can cause scarring in the penis because of the repeated injection of the needle going in and outside of your penis. And it's what we call here fibrosis. And depending on the formulation that you get, some of the medications that are included in the formulations cause pain. In general, satisfaction with patients is okay, but I wouldn't say it's great. Finally, the penile implant. And the penile implant is the gold standard for men with moderate to severe erectile dysfunction after prostate surgery. And this is here an example of a 3-piece inflatable penile prosthesis. Again, there are 2 cylinders. These cylinders are going to go into these 2 spaces that we've discussed, the corpora. So once these 2 cylinders are placed there, you've got a reservoir of water, or just a balloon that is in your belly under your skin. And there's a little pump in your scrotum behind your testicles. The entire device with all the components is concealed within your body. Nothing is visible to the outside, so nobody can know that you have anything. The way I do it, different people do it different ways, but the way I do it, and I find it to be the safest way, and the way that allows us to measure your penis the best and give you the best outcomes, is I make an incision at the base of your penis here, which is about 1 inch in length. So about this long. So this incision of about 1 inch, I can put through it all the components and make it work. And usually surgery takes about 45 minutes. You stay in the hospital overnight with a catheter and antibiotics. The morning we take out the catheter, you go home. You can't use your penis for a few weeks afterwards while everything heals. Once it heals, you're all good to go. As you can see here, you're going to tell me, do these cylinders come all in one size? They don't. They come in different sizes, and we have different ways of measuring your penis at the time of surgery to give you the correct penile implant. The important thing to know is this is not your penis. Your penis is this, plus a part that goes to the inside. So a big part of the penis, almost half of the penis is inside the body. So it's important that we put cylinders that fill the entire space, so when you get an erection, you get a strong erection with a strong foundation that's not going to bend when you try to have intercourse. I think there's a video here. So I don't know if the video is working or not, but do you have the device? I can show it.
Oh, yeah.
So this is an example of a device. I'm going to put the microphone down for a second and speak. So this is an example of a device that is used. As you can see, we're shortchanging you with this example because there's only one cylinder. You're supposed to have 2 cylinders. This is just for model purposes. So this goes into the penis. This is the back end of it that goes deep into the penis, and this is what fills the rest of the penis. This pump will go into the scrotum behind the testicle, so it's not visible to the outside. This will be inside your belly under layers of skin and muscle. And it works by simple hydraulics. When the man wants to get an erection, he will press the pump. It usually takes about 10 to 12 pumps depending on the size of the penis. When the pump is pressed, and I'll give you this so you can look at it afterwards, the cylinder gets really hard and stiff. And it mimics the hardest erection his man has probably had in his life, because you're not going to get anything harder than a silicone tube filled with water. Once the erection is completely hard, man has intercourse. Once you're done, there's a small deflation button. So you press on the button and you squeeze the cylinders, and just as the water moves from the balloon to the cylinders, once you're done, the water moves back the opposite way. So it's simple hydraulics. And as you can see, when it's completely flaccid or soft, it is not apparent to the outside. So when you want to have an erection, you're rigid. When you don't want to have an erection, you go back to being flaccid. And when you're flaccid, it's concealable within your clothes. And I think this is pretty much what this is discussing. So the benefit of a penile implant, such as the one offered by AMS, is it offers a permanent solution to ED. It is spontaneous, so you can have sex whenever you want. An erection can last as long as you desire. You don't have to titrate a dose like you have to do with the injections and worry about, is it going to give me a 45-minute erection? Is it going to give me a 5-minute erection? Is it going to give me a 3-hour erection? Here, you are in control of how long you want to keep your erection. It is entirely contained within the body, so nothing is visible to the outside. The patient and partner satisfaction rate is consistently in all studies over 95%. It typically does not interfere with orgasms. So if you had normal orgasms before your surgery, your penile implant surgery, you're going to continue having normal orgasms. In most men after prostate surgery, there is no ejaculation, so you will continue not having an ejaculation, so that will not change. If you're getting your penile implant for a different reason other than prostate cancer surgery, then if you had ejaculation afterwards, these will be maintained afterwards. Implants have been in use for more than 40 years. They were actually invented in 1973. The gentleman who invented the penile implant, interestingly enough, also invented the artificial uterine sphincter, which we'll talk about later on. And then he loved to fly planes, and then he crashed a plane in Texas and died, unfortunately. I don't know what else he would have invented, but he's a very smart man. There have nearly been 500,000 implants placed in the United States in the past 40 years. These are insurance coverage questions that you can ask Christy afterwards. I'm sure she'll be happy to answer you all these questions. So in summary, ED is a common problem and may be associated with other conditions. There are a variety of treatment options like we discussed. Penile implants could offer a permanent solution. It is important, I always tell patients, I often get men come to the clinic by themselves, and it's always the same consideration. They come, they're interested, they all want to sign up, then where's the wife? Where's your partner? They haven't brought their wife, they haven't discussed it with their wife, and they go and their wife's surprised, then they come back with their wife. So I always recommend men, when you have the problem with erectile dysfunction, come with your wife, because it's a couple's problem. Come together, obviously if you're married. Come with your wife, discuss it, and that obviously helps you, and it'll help through the process of getting the surgery, recovering from the surgery, and all of these things. And again, I recommend you see a prosthetic urologist because we have more experience and expertise with these things and we can give you the best outcomes. New data actually has come out to show that when implants are placed by specialized prosthetic surgeons with high volumes, the outcomes are significantly better than when they are placed with people with little experience. On that note, I'm going to call Rico up to the stage. Rico is our patient advocate. He has one of those, but I believe Rico got the 2 cylinders, and you got 3 cylinders, right?
Rico.
So you guys are in for a treat.
6.
Thank you, Dr. Yafi. As Dr. Yafi said, my name is Rico Walker, and I've had my implant for about, March is going to make 3 years. Let me give you a little capsulation of my odyssey. About 6 years ago, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and my prostate was removed in May of 2011. And all the cures, like I said, cures, I had erectile dysfunction. So I was prescribed Viagra. I got about a 50-50 success rate with it. And, you know, when you're in an intimate situation, 50-50, you know, when you're used to a different higher number, you try something else. Well, so they prescribed the Muse. And the Muse is very, I personally liked it, but it was given to me by a neighbor who was going on the same journey that I was on. He was with VA, so he said, "Hey Rico, have you tried these?" So he gave me a couple, and they really worked great, you know. But medical plan I had didn't afford me, you know, $80 a pop for one dose. So then they gave me an injectable. The injectables were pretty good. Now, first of all, you have to really wrap your head around sticking a needle in your little friend, you know. But in the effort to be normal, that's what we do. Now, I had a bad experience. I was prescribed a very exotic injectable, and doctors said, just use a little bit, go by the numbers and everything. But unfortunately, most of the time when you're using it, it's at night, and so I just eyeballed it. And, you know, it worked fine for the first 4 hours. Then I had to go to the emergency room the next morning, and that just put me in a tailspin in the other direction. And I was really kind of bummed out, depressed, because I was hoping that, you know, I would rebound, and it never did. So went for a physical, and so my doctor said, so how are you feeling? I said, well, pretty good, you know, for a man who, you know, has erectile dysfunction. He said, well, why don't you get an implant? I said, an implant? You know, it just hadn't even dawned on me. So made an appointment for me to see, Dr. Mills over at UCLA, and got all the information, a lot of the information that you're seeing here, and it made sense. And, you know, it's not so much about sex, it's about feeling normal. You know, about feeling normal, about feeling, you know, healthy in your relationships. And I gotta tell you, my relationship really took a really hard hit, because, you know, when you've had a healthy sex life, and then to go from, you know, up here to like 0, and you know, and your partner sometimes can understand it. You know, it's like, the best way that I was able to describe it to my girlfriend was, it's like being at a buffet without an appetite. And women really take things personally. They think, oh, well, you don't find me attractive anymore, or, you know, and it's not that. It's that when that you know, testosterone is not in your system, you know, your energy is low, your mood is, you know, now I understand the crabby old men. But what I'm saying is, we live in a really good time in that there's science and there's technology that can really make a difference, that can really improve the quality of our lives. And I would say that I'm really very satisfied with all the new science, and, you know, combined with the medicine. When I say the medicine, I give myself a testosterone shot, you know, once a week, because, you know, when you remove your prostate, testosterone is not being produced in your body. So I've learned a lot, you know, and I'm really happy that I'm able to come out and to talk to groups like this, because, you know, I understand women have a higher success rate with breast cancers and cervical cancer, and that's because they organize, they share, they talk to their Congress people, you know, they raise funds, and, you know, and they have a higher success rate. And men, we tend not to talk about our nether regions, you know, we like, you know, that's my business. I don't want to talk about it. For whatever reason, I had an uncle, prostate cancer. He succumbed to prostate cancer. Didn't find out about it until 2 weeks before he died, you know. Well, you know, sure, it's his business, but, you know, as family, you know, if you're going through something, you should share, because knowledge is power. Knowledge makes the difference in your life. So, you know, I'm really happy, and I'm putting myself as you know, I'm backing it up by saying, hey, if there's anyone here who would like to speak with me afterwards, no question is off the table. I'm really happy that Boston Scientific, you know, came along, because, like I say, I live in LA. I wouldn't have driven all this way out here, you know, if I weren't happy, if I didn't have something positive to say. And I know that a lot of you who are here who have questions, or like wondering, well, what's it going to be like, or what's it going to do, you know, like I said, if you want to ask me one-on-one anything, it's cool. It's really cool. So again, my name is Rico Walker. If you have questions, I'll be here until the program is over, and I'm really happy to be here. Thank you, Dr. Yafi.
Thanks, we can take a few questions. I'll ask you a question that probably most people would want to know.
Okay.
Does having a penile implant feel like a normal erection when you're having intercourse for you? And how does it feel for your partner?
Okay. Boy, you went really straight for the jugular on that one.
That's what matters, right?
Well, it does. It does. When I say it does, only one little area. I got to tell you, what should I say? The chambers, the girth is wonderful, the circumference is wonderful, but it does not extend to the tip of the penis. So the tip of the penis doesn't, you know, I shall say, inflate or enlarge, you know, like the rest. However, you know, there's a fix for that. The first time I came out to speak, I shared that with a urologist, and he said, you know, without even blinking an eye, he said, well, there's a fix for that. You know, there's a topical that you can use that'll help increase the blood flow. And there are other things, you know, but, you know, that's my secret. You know, share with my friends.
And how about your partner?
My partner's very, very, very happy, very satisfied, because, like I said, you're able to engage. You're able to engage. Unlike the injectables, there's a, like I say, a time lag, you know, excuse me, in the bathroom, or you're waiting for the urethral suppository, you're waiting for it to kick in. The same thing with Viagra, with Cialis, you know, you're looking at you're waiting for it. It's not that with an implant. Like I said, you just basically kind of take your hand and put it in your short, which you would normally do, and you're off to the races. So it's really a great, it's about as normal as you can get under the circumstances. You know, that's the best that I can say about it.
The point that Rico brings up is very important. Dr. Mills, who did his surgery, is a friend of mine and a colleague, and I know known him for very long, and he's a very good surgeon. The penis itself, whenever a surgeon promises that he's going to put a cylinder that goes all the way to the tip of the penis till it touches the skin at the end, that's the surgeon you don't want to go to. Because at the end of the day, every penis is different. Every glance is different. And the spaces that I showed you on the pictures that fill up with blood don't end in the same place in everybody. Giving you something too big would end up causing problems. One, it causes pain, and two, once something is really big and the space that feels so small, it's going to try to find a way to go out, right? That's one thing. The other thing, if you get something too small, then you're not happy. So, like Rico was saying, sometimes we put the implants exactly the size that it needs to be, and that is why sometimes the glands doesn't swell up completely, but there are solutions besides a topical cream. The Muse works very well as well for patients who have a penile implant and whom the glands doesn't swell up. But in most of the cases, overwhelming amount of cases, it's not usually a big problem or a limitation factor from having intercourse. Any questions that you would like to ask? Please go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir.
My urologist said that Medicare pays
From you.
said,
Wow.
and there's a few guys here,
For Muse or for the implants?
implant.
Yes, Medicare does pay for the implant. I'm not going to go through the insurance details with you. Christy and Stephanie, sorry. Christy and Stephanie can answer you all these questions. But Medicare is actually one of the easiest to get approval through it. If you come and see me in the clinic, I tend to do an ultrasound before the surgery in most patients. And once the documentation is there, they usually will always approve it because there is a cause and a reason for it.
Okay, I don't see any more. Oh, yes, sir.
After the implant, was there any changes in your urinating?
No.
Any pain?
No, well, I mean, I gotta be discreet. There's a 6-week period that's really the healing period, you know, and I've had better days, but, you know, what is bitter to endure is sweet to cherish. I'll put it to you like that.
But after?
But afterwards, yeah. I mean, you know, I'm an implant right now, and I'm able to, you know, it's like normal. It's not like you gotta walk around like, you know, it's about as close to normal as you can get. Yeah.
So again, the cylinders fill up the blood spaces, but you have to bear in mind that when they're not inflated, the cylinders are smaller than the cavities that are filled with blood. So they're not into the urethra, they don't compress on the urethra. When you fill your cylinders, when you're having intercourse, they actually get girthier. So your penis gets wider than it's been before, and that will compress on your urethra. And that actually is a good thing, because a lot of men who've had prostate cancer surgery afterwards have something called, in a sense, is when they have an orgasm, they have urine come out. And it's a big complaint for a lot of men because, you know, it's an issue. When you do put the implants, it actually controls for it quite significantly because of the space it takes up when you get an erection. But you're not going to walk around with your cylinders completely inflated. I mean, you can if you want to, but most people don't, so you'll be able to urinate normally with it.
Before you use, before you're able to use your implant / penis, your doctor instructs you to inflate it, like when you're showering, like 5 to 10 minutes a day, or during the day, to kind of, it's like exercising, it's like stretching, because, you know, there's really a foreign object in your body, but the body is really smart. It really learns to accommodate what's going on to make you as comfortable as possible. I mean, if you think about it, we are really, a lot of us are bionic. We have dental implants, some people have pacemakers, you know, an implant is no different. You know, your body really, you know, early on, you know, I was aware of it, you know, walking, you know, I could feel it because, you know, I was still healing. But, you know, now you shower, you exercise, you put jeans on, you sit down fast, you get up fast, you don't notice it. So, like I say, it's really great as far as the quality of life is concerned. Really great.
Thanks, Rico.
Thank you so much. And again, if you have any questions, I'll be here.
And so now we'll move on to the second part of this discussion. We're going to talk about urinary incontinence, what we call stress incontinence. So what is stress incontinence? Incontinence basically is anytime urine leaks out of the body when you don't desire it to leak. So not when you're urinating. There are different kinds of incontinence. There is something called urge incontinence. Urge incontinence happens when a man gets the urge to urinate and has to run to the bathroom. As you're running to the bathroom, you have an accident and you leak. There's something called stress incontinence, and that's what usually happens after prostate cancer surgery, because again, if you remember the image, and I think it's going to come up here in a second again, we're removing the area between the bladder and the urethra, which is the prostate. There is a sphincter there. That sphincter, which is the bladder neck, is lost. The man has 2 sphincters inherently in the body. There's the bladder neck, and there's an external sphincter. The external sphincter is one that is under your own control. This is one that you have the ability to control and flex and hold your urine in, like when you really, really need to go, but you're able to hold it. That sphincter needs to be really strong to be able to hold the urine after your prostate surgery because the other sphincter is gone. Stress urinary incontinence is basically when that sphincter is not strong enough, so when there's more pressure in the bladder, the sphincter cannot hold the urine and it goes out. For example, if you cough, if you sneeze, if you're about to have a bowel movement, if you press your stomach and urine leaks out, this is called stress urinary incontinence. And in certain instances, men have mixed urinary incontinence, which is a combination of both. And in general, incontinence after prostate surgery is much more bothersome to men than erectile dysfunction when it is prevalent. When the incontinence is really bad, it really can affect men's quality of life, and we'll discuss this a little bit. And as you can see here, studies suggest that as many as 50% of men report leakage immediately following surgery, and somewhere between 10 to 20% of men will have continuous leakage of urine after prostate cancer surgery, even after an extended period of time, that be it if it's robotic, open, laparoscopic, whichever way the surgery was done. And approximately 500,000 men suffer from stress urinary incontinence worldwide. And as you'll see, the options of treatment here are much less than the options that we have for erectile dysfunction. Again, going back, this is the bladder, stores the urine. This is your urethra where the urine is going to come out. Again, for the question that was asked earlier, the corpora, or the spaces that fill up with blood, are here. So you can see they're separate from the urethra, which is the urine tube. This is the prostate that's going to come out when you do surgery. This is the bladder neck. This is the sphincter that is not under the man's control. This is under autonomic control. It means your brain controls you from not leaking urine, such as when you're sleeping, so you don't leak urine. And this is the external sphincter that is under control by yourself. So, stress urinary incontinence is strongly correlated with prostate surgery. Like we said, 10 to 20% of men after 1 year of surgery. Other causes can be neurological disorders, men with strokes, men with brain tumors, men who have accidents and trauma to their spine. It can occur after other kinds of surgery besides prostate surgery, colorectal surgery, men who have their bowels taken out, men who have their surgery on the rectum, they can also end up with this. After radiation therapy to the prostate, the rates of incontinence are significantly less than after prostate surgery, but there are significantly other complications in terms of urination, such as frequent urination, blood in the urine, things like that after radiation. And after pelvic trauma, you can have incontinence as well. Urgent incontinence has really significant effect on quality of life. Men who leak a lot of urine and are unable to control it tend to become homebodies. They don't want to go outside. They don't want to walk around and be leaking and worry about having to leak. They don't exercise because they're worried they're going to leak if they exercise. They avoid sexual intercourse because they're worried that when they're going to have sex, they're going to leak on their partner. So it really affects your quality of life. So it's also very important to treat that. Unfortunately, because urinary incontinence doesn't have an early option, such a medication like the Viagra or Cialis. All men know about a Viagra or Cialis. So you'll go after the prostate surgery, you'll ask for a Viagra. If it doesn't work, your next question is, what else can I do? For incontinence, most men don't know that there are options. So they just go about being incontinent. So that's why treatments for incontinence are really, really underutilized across the nation. And that's very important to put it in perspective, because if you have a problem with incontinence, there are solutions, and I'll discuss them. So what are the treatment options? So about 180,000 men are diagnosed with prostate cancer each year. Again, we're going back to this same picture. 70,000 have a radical prostatectomy. Prostate is here, bladder, urethra. You can see that's the bladder neck is gone here, and this is the sphincter. So you're really counting on this muscle here that is under your own control to hold your urine when your bladder gets full. Every man who has prostate surgery is going to be incontinent immediately afterwards. That's almost standard. You will recover your continence over time to a certain extent. Some men, depending on the type of surgery, will not recover any continence at all, and that we call gravitational incontinence. Some men immediately, as soon as they stand up after prostate surgery, every time they stand up, they just pour urine. And obviously, as you can imagine, this is associated with terrible quality of life. So what are the treatment options? Again, going back here, you get your urologist, can recommend things like putting a catheter or wearing diapers, but will not be able to do the more advanced surgeries that are prosthetic surgeries for incontinence, and these include a sling and a sphincter, and I'll discuss both of those. So behavioral modifications, you can reduce the fluid intake. We live in California, it's hot. If you don't drink a lot of water, you're going to have much more problems than leaking urine. You're going to end up with kidney stones, and you're going to end up with a lot of other problems. So reducing fluid intake is mostly decreasing how much you drink in the evening, so you don't leak on yourself at night. But again, this is a patch, not a fix to the problem. Plan restroom breaks to make sure your bladder doesn't get too full and you leak, but you'll still leak in between if your incontinence is severe enough. Pelvic floor therapy and Kegel exercises are very important, and anybody who's had prostate cancer surgery knows that your surgeon is going to tell you to bear down and try to strengthen those muscles in your pelvis. These are the same exercises that women use after delivery to make sure that they're able to be continent and hold their urine. These exercises work to a certain extent, but if your incontinence is moderate to severe, they're unlikely to work for you. And finally, other coping mechanisms include pads, diapers, You've got your catheters. The catheter can be internal, means it's a tube that goes through your penis into the bladder, or it can be a tube that is attached to the outside of your penis, like a condom catheter, and that leaks urine into a bag. And finally, penile clamps, incredibly uncomfortable for patients. Basically, a clamp you put on the outside of your penis, just so urine doesn't go out when you want to pee. Open the clamp. Most men absolutely hate it because it causes a lot of discomfort. So what are the two long-lasting treatment options? There's the male sling. The male sling is basically just a piece of mesh. The surgery doesn't take a lot of time to do, and it's basically a puncture around here in the groin and around here in the groin, and it's a piece of mesh that goes around the urethra. The goal of it is to reproduce natural anatomy that was there before your sphincter was taken out when you had your prostate cancer surgery. What it does is when the pressure increases in your belly or in your stomach, or when you bear it down for whatever reason, such as coughing or sneezing or straining, it'll give a support to the urethra and allow the urethra to hold the urine in and allow you not to leak at that point. Like it's completely concealed within the body. There's no mechanism that you have to press that doesn't require you to have any dexterity. It's just there. And it works well for mild incontinence in certain instances of moderate incontinence. If you have severe incontinence, you're leaking more than 2 to 3 pads per day, it's very unlikely to work for you. The other option is the artificial urinary sphincter, and the artificial urinary sphincter is really the standard of care, or the gold standard for men with moderate to severe incontinence. And I'll show you in a minute how it works. It's also same as the penile implant. It consists of 3 components. Stephanie. So this one doesn't have fluid in it, and I'll go to the next slide because I think there's a picture of it. So this is just showing you that there's 10 years of experience and patient satisfaction. Actually, the sphincter is incredibly high because patients go from being very wet to almost completely dry immediately. Surgery, again, takes about 45 minutes. You stay in the hospital overnight with a catheter. You go home the next day. 6 weeks later, you can activate it, and it can make you completely dry. And it's a minimally invasive procedure, and this is the artificial urinary sphincter. As you can see here, this part here is the cuff. This is another reservoir like we had with the penile implant, and this is a pump. So as you can see, the same guy invented both things, so he kind of replicated the same concept. So this is the cuff. This will go around the urethra, the most proximal part of the urethra where the sphincter used to be. At all times, it will be inflated. When it's inflated, as you can see, the space in the middle is very small, so it's causing pressure on the urethra and not allowing anything to go out. This pump, which is in the scrotum, the role of it is to open the cuff. So it usually takes about 2 presses of this. So you press it twice. What happens is the cuff here is going to open up. Once the cuff opens up, that water is moved from here to that balloon that is in your belly, and there's no more pressure on the urethra, so the urine can freely come out. And it usually stays open for about 90 seconds. If you've got 90 seconds to empty your bladder, you don't have to do anything anymore. The only thing that you have to do is press that cuff a couple of times, press that pump a couple of times, the cuff opens up, urine comes out for 90 seconds, and then it closes back up by itself. The reason it does this is there are mechanisms in it that allow it to close back on itself. There's a valve, two-sided valve on each one of the device components. Like I said, it's considered the standard of care. It fits around the urethra. Again, the same thing. The difference is the incision is not made at the base of the penis, although some physicians will make it at the base of the penis. It is, however, recommended to make the incision in the perineum behind the testicles, so it's also an incision that is not visible and all the components are completely concealable. There is an animation here, but it's more or less what I just described. I don't think the animation is working either for this one, and I'll pass this along, but just for summary purposes, this is around the urethra, this is in the scrotum behind the testicles, and this is in the belly. When you want to urinate, you press the pump a couple of times, this opens up. There's no more pressure on your urethra, and the water comes out. Once you're done, this will start closing by itself, and you're good to be dry again. This is called an AMS 800. The inflatable penile prosthesis is called 700. In certain instances, we do what is called a 1500, which basically we give you both at the same time if you have incontinence and erectile dysfunction. So these can be put both at the same time through 2 separate incisions. We put all the components together and you get 1 surgery at the cost of 2. And in certain instances, depending on your situation, we put the sphincter first, make sure you're dry, and then afterwards, once we make sure you're dry, we go ahead and put the penile implant. And you can have both of them. A lot of patients have both of them. I put about 40 components together, a sphincter and an artificial and an inflatable penile prosthesis, and they work well. Patients are happy because they can get erections and they're confident. So again, here are satisfaction rates, as you can see, for the sphincter, similar to the inflatable penile prosthesis, over 90%. The satisfaction rate with the sling that we discussed earlier is also significantly higher. The important thing here is patient selection. If you have mild to moderate incontinence, you can try the sling. However, if your incontinence is a bit more severe, you're better off getting the artificial urinary sphincter. The benefits, it offers a ability to achieve continence. It mimics a healthy sphincter. It's entirely within the body, has high patient satisfaction, and it restores normalcy and confidence to men. With both devices, the major risk is a risk of infection because you're putting a foreign device in your body. The risk of infection is usually about 1 to 3%. If you're diabetic, it's a little bit higher, about 3%. If you're not diabetic, it's closer to 1%. There's a risk of component failure or mechanical failure. There's a lot of moving pieces to the device, and anytime there's a lot of moving pieces like a car, something can break down. If any of the pieces don't work, we go in and we just fix the piece that doesn't work, or we exchange it if there is a need. If the device is infected, the majority of the time, well, you always have to go in and take out the device when you have an infection, otherwise you get sick. But sometimes if the infection is not very bad, we can take out the device and put a new device at the same time. If the infection is a bit more severe, we take the device out, let everything heal down, and we go back in and put a new device at a later time. Again here, this is just about talking to a urologist, see how much you're leaking. It's usually recommended to wait at least 6 months before you get one of these procedures for your incontinence, because that's how long it takes usually for your incontinence to start recovering from surgery. These are the discussions about the sling and the insurance coverage. Christy, I'm sure will be happy to answer these questions. And in terms of summary, we discuss all these things. And we'll call Matt up. Matt is a patient advocate who has an artificial urinary sphincter, and he'll be able to give you a few words about the sphincter.
Thank you, Dr. Yafi. I actually loaned this. I had this in tonight and took it out so I can show it to everybody. You think, okay. So, well, this is really not complicated. If you want to walk around with wet diapers and wet underwear and wet pants and try drinking a glass of wine at a wedding and then dancing with your wife, and then find out your entire chair is soaking wet. If you have to ask me questions, is the surgery painful? When was the last time you went through surgery and you lay down in the bed and they put that thing in your arm and you said, oh my God, and you woke up 2 hours later? Yeah, you weren't in the best frame of mind, but you know what? For the rest of my life, I now do not have wet, smelly underwear. So I hate to be more specific about that. But I will address another issue because I have ED also, but I'm not incontinent. So what's more appetizing for a woman? To not have an erection? Or honey, please, do me a favor, change your underpants, would you please? Don't sleep in the same bed with me. So this is not a question of desire, happiness. It's really about your quality of life. And anybody can also, I'm open for any questions. I'll give you my telephone number. I get calls from all over the country. I got a call the other day from Louisiana. And the guy said, well, you know, Ms. Lewis, I don't understand this continence issue. He says, I got myself, I cut off a piece of the bed sheet my wife gave me, and I made it into a cone, and I put a rubber band around it. And I could wear this thing for maybe 2 days. So I said, well, call me when you straighten yourself out, and we can talk about reality. But this is a true story. So I'll cut this short. This is as simple that I borrowed your pen. Okay. This machine is just like this. Key, that's it. It closes itself and it's done. Click at a pen, you're done. Reach down, click it. That's it. So does anybody have any questions?
How long?
Oh, you do?
Yeah, the question I have, you mentioned about when you push the button, it takes, like, it opens up for 90 seconds and then closes back. Is that somewhat correct? How do you know that the 90 seconds, I assume you go into the bathroom and maybe sit down or stand up, whatever way, and then you say, hey, maybe I've got to wait for the 90 seconds, and how do I know it really closed back up again before I walk out?
You know what? That is an incredible question. First of all, I sit down.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm allowed to use the ladies' room.
Oh,
So that makes it much better for me. I can go, when I have to pee, I have to pee. So you asked the question, there's two parts to that question. This is as normal as when your bladder worked. This is not like, oh my God, I gotta pee. When you gotta pee, your sphincter holds onto it. This thing holds onto it, so it's the same thing. So now you sit down, you pee, and you shake it a little bit. But then there's that feeling that you
how do you
get.
know it closed?
Then you still have to pee.
Yeah.
But you don't really have to, but it's, so you go like this, click it again.
Or you can click it to close it.
No, it closes by itself. You only click it to open it.
But how do you know it really closed? Did you feel it or something
Well,
like that?
it's kind of like you get used to it.
Yeah.
It's also the fact that it takes a man on average 20 to 30 seconds to urinate. So you'll be done. You won't have any urine left in your bladder. So unless you have a problem where your bladder doesn't empty, your bladder is going to be empty. So it doesn't matter if the cuff is still open or has it closed at that point because you emptied your bladder. So
But
you can
you walk out, but the thing hasn't really closed.
You can adjust. If you start feeling that when you're getting up immediately afterwards you're leaking, you just take extra precautions or just sit a little bit extra waiting. But on average it takes about 90 seconds. By the time you open your cuff, you stand or you sit to urinate and you've done urinating, that's about a 45-second thing. And you've emptied your bladder and sit another extra 15 seconds. When we say 90 seconds, this is the time it takes for it to completely close. So it starts closing earlier, but it'll be completely closed by 90 seconds. It's rarely an issue where men feel it, but again, if you urinate because your bladder's overactive and you urinate, and then like he was saying, you start feeling that you want to urinate again immediately afterwards, your cuff is closed after 90 seconds. Just open it up again and urinate. You can open it up as many times as you want, as long as you wait for it to close before you open it up again.
Another question?
Yes, sir.
Some, few people have very large prostate glands, okay, and that puts pressure on the urethra. So, for those people, it may take a longer time to exhaust the liquids in the bladder.
So, have you ever run up against that kind of situation
Could you
where it takes
re-ask the
longer
question
than?
again, Larry? They couldn't hear you back. Re-ask the question.
Say it again.
Re-ask the question.
Okay.
The question is to the doctor, is some people, not many, but some people have very large prostate glands, which puts pressure on the urethra. And the question is, for those people, would it take longer than 90 seconds to exhaust the liquids in the bladder?
That's an excellent question. Bear in mind that the most common reason we put an artificial urinary sphincter is men who've had their prostate taken out. So again, that issue's been addressed in the sense that the prostate's out, so that obstruction that was there from the prostate is gone. However, if for whatever reason the sphincter is placed in a man who, for example, has stress urinary incontinence for other reasons, and the prostate is large, then the only thing that he'd have to do is open the cuff. Once it closes, opens it up again to urinate a second time. But it's unusual. It's very rare circumstances where we put an artificial urinary sphincter in men, not after prostate cancer surgery. It's quite unusual. The majority of the time, stress incontinence in men happens after prostate cancer surgery. That's the most common reason. unless the nerves were damaged from colorectal surgery or pelvic trauma or something else. And in that instance, if the prostate is large, then if the prostate is really large and causing symptoms, then we can always go in and resect the prostate if there's no cancer and put a sphincter afterwards. So there's a lot of things that we can do for these situations.
So if you, thank you, if you press the button again, I don't know what you call it, but I'm going to call it a button, yeah. Would that be enough time, the second time, to exhaust?
The longest it takes in general for men with a large prostate to urinate, to a certain point where he's emptied as much as he is going to empty is about 100 seconds.
Okay.
So that's how much it would take a man who is, because bear in mind, 100 seconds is almost 2 minutes. So if you haven't emptied your bladder in 100 seconds, the likelihood is you're not emptying your bladder. So in that instance, you need something else done for your prostate, like a resection of your prostate if your prostate is a larger size. Yeah, you're welcome, sir.
How long have you had your device in?
Since 2004. How's that?
Same one?
Same one?
The same device? Hasn't failed on you or anything?
No. Now, I'm going to answer your question and your question, if you don't mind.
No, please go ahead.
Okay. Remember that dot you used to get on your pants after you came out of the bathroom? Has anybody ever had that? No, well, you haven't. The little, oh. Does anybody remember the dot you used to get on your pants after you came out of the men's room? You don't get that. Whatever it does, it works. And every one of you guys used to wipe it off with a little piece of toilet paper, and when you went out, you looked down to see if there was a dot there. You don't get it with this mechanism. I don't know why, but who cares? And so I'm just evidence that it works for me. Now you had a question. Oh no.
After surgery, we leave it open. So after surgery, you're going to be leaking for 6 weeks. So it's going to be the status quo for you. We leave it open for 6 weeks, and then when we activate it is when we close it. So you come to the clinic, we close it, and that's when we leave it. There's a mechanism on it that we tend to not like to teach patients how to use it because then they get in trouble. But there's a lock mechanism on it. So I can keep it open in a locked open situation, and I can keep it closed in a locked closed position. So what do we do? Anytime. You'll see there's a little nubbin at the top of the button, at the top of the bump. That's a lock mechanism. So after surgery, it stays open in a locked open position, and you continue leaking like you did before surgery until we activate the device, and we unlock it basically.
My recovery time post this surgery, I was back at work in 2 days. I put a little ice on it. Sometimes I put green peas, but they didn't have any butter on them, so they weren't that good. But you put frozen peas on it for a couple of days, 2-3 days, the minimum. Now I'll tell you exactly what happened to me. About 3 weeks or 4 weeks, I went back to the doctor. He laid me on the bed, and you could feel the thing in there. I mean, he's taking extra space, and I'm not getting any rent for it. So he's sitting in there with his 2 other brothers. And I lay down on the bed, the nurse comes in, which is the best part of anything. And she is going to activate this mechanism, as Dr. Yafi said. So all they do is they press this button. And that's it. So the doctor said, I went from the day I came in there having a pant load of diapers. I laid on the bed, the doctor pressed it. He said, go have 2 cups of coffee and walk up. It was in a big hospital in New York. He says, walk up and down 4 or 5 flights of steps and let me know what happens. Come back in an hour. 0. You have no idea. After I got my radical prostatectomy in 2001, I had this implant put in 2004. So prior to that, I was happy. That within less than an hour, my incontinence was gone. I never thought about there was no pain. It was, listen, if you break your leg, you go to the doctor, you sit up in it, you wear a crutch and everything. None of this happened to me. This was simple. Anyway, I'd like to thank you.
No, thank you very much for coming. Any other questions for Matt?
Is there any contraindication if you've had a TURP?
That's a good question. It is not a contraindication. We just have to have a cystoscopy and assess, make sure your bladder neck is fine before we do it. It's just a matter of doing a cystoscopy first and making sure.
Can I answer that? I also had bladder cancer 5 times. You know, this is not an AA meeting to tell everybody how drunk I was. And, you know, I've had bladder cancer 5 times. So at one point, I had to get a cystoscopy every 6 weeks. Now, I'm gonna share something with you. If any of your doctors, if you have not had a cystoscopy, and I'm talking to the men, I think some women have had them, but it's a lot more room to get in there. Man, it's a little tiny hole. It is the least invasive procedure. I think he's having it now. It's the least invasive procedure, and what I do, I have the unit inside me. I open it up, the doctor looks at the camera, I'm actually seeing my bladder on the screen. It's like when Katie Couric did her colonoscopy on TV. Everybody thinks it hurts. So the doctor's gonna, but this is also important about what we're talking about, the quality of life. Anyway, I've abused the privilege of talking to you folks. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, I'll be outside. And thank you, Stephanie.
Rico?
Yes, Dr. Yafi, how long does the unit design last?
The inflatable penile prosthesis, there's no lifetime. It's supposed to last you for your entire life. Usually it lasts about, on average, anywhere between 10 to 15 years. But it's like a car. If you drive your car 100 miles every day, it's going to wear off faster. If you drive a mile every week, it's going to last longer. So there's usage there. And with the artificial urinary sphincter, it's also anywhere between 5 to 10 years. Where that's important. The question is important is not whether you have to change the entire device. But there's wear and tear. There's a little issue here, a little issue there. We go in, we fix it, and you're good to go back again. And the recovery time is always shorter whenever we have to go and just do a little fix on the device. Nothing is perfect. Anybody who tells you you're going to get an implant and it's going to be the greatest thing and there's not going to have any problem, 0% chance of having any problem ever, that's someone who's lying. There are issues that can happen, and we cover all these issues when we discuss the surgeries with you, but it's like any other surgery. There are issues that can happen. The thing is, the rates of complications are very low. There is not a single complication that is higher than 1 to 3%, and 3% is a generous estimate. So, you go into something knowing it's going to improve your quality of life 100%, and your trade-off is a 1 to 2% chance of problem we have ways to fix. So that's one way to look at it. So, any other questions?
Is there any kind of abrasion with that? I'm thinking of the one that holds the urinary tract. When it looked like it's kind of a clamping thing. I saw
On the urethra?
Yeah, it doesn't squeeze it like this. It's like a.
It puts circumferential pressure on the urethra. So if it's not sized properly or not placed in the proper place in the urethra, it can cause issues on the urethra, and that's why it's important to get it done by someone with experience to give you the right size and put it as proximal in the urethra as possible. That's the main thing, as proximal and the correct size.
So it doesn't.
So it doesn't keep on compressing and hurt you. Exactly.
To scuff it.
Correct.
Correct.
What do you call the opposite of incontinence, where you have a hard time?
Retention.
Retention.
Yes.
Are you addressing that tonight or not?
I am not, but I'm happy to answer your questions. I also treat that. Usually when men have difficulty urinating is because the prostate is enlarged, or there's a problem more distal, which is in the urethra, like a stricture in the urethra, or the bladder is not functioning properly. This is addressed in the clinic through ways where we have you pee in a special toilet that checks the flow of your urine and the strength of your flow. Make sure you're emptying your bladder. We also do the procedure that Matt was discussing, the cystoscopy, where I look inside with a camera. And depending on what the situation is, we sometimes also do a urodynamic study, which is the same thing as an EKG for the heart, but for the bladder. Basically looks at the muscle of the bladder, how it's contracting and all of that. There are treatments for it. There are oral therapies, but we also now have, this is beyond the topic of this and beyond the company that is helping sponsor this, but there is a device called a Urolift, which is a device that we do in the clinic. Doesn't require you to be put to sleep. Doesn't affect your ejaculations or your erections, unlike other treatments for the prostate. And we go in while you're awake, we just give you a Xanax and a pain pill. We go in with a camera and staple your prostate open. I'm happy to talk to you more about it. Preserves your ejaculations, your erections, and allows you to urinate freely. You come, you have your procedure in the clinic, you're awake the whole time, you watch it on the screen, and you go home 30 minutes later, and you're all good to go, you can stop your medication.
What about the green light or the blue light?
So these are great options. These are usually reserved for prostates that are either a bit larger, or these require you to be put to sleep, and they will render you unable to ejaculate afterwards.
I'm thinking about for the urinary.
Yeah. If you do a laser prostate resection, you can't ejaculate afterwards. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you again very much for your attendance. Thank you very much for having me here. And you have my information. If anybody would like to get in touch, has any questions, and would like to have some follow-up, please feel free to call the office, and we'll be more than happy to schedule to see you. And I'm happy to come and give this talk again whenever you want some more information. Thank you very much.
Okay, there is literature out there on this.
Thank you for watching our video. If you would like to learn all the most current prostate cancer information, we have many YouTube videos on our website at www.prostateforum.org. We also have meetings the fourth Thursday of every month where you can talk to mutual survivors. You can also ask personal questions to the doctors and the speakers after the meeting. Remember, when us men hear the word cancer, the big C, our brains turn to mush. We think we're about to die. Come learn where there's hope and information at the Prostate Forum of Orange County.